A quick one before we get started. If you are new here, Damn Parenting has over 200 episodes for international families living here in the Netherlands. Hit follow now so you don't miss what's coming next. Right, let's go. Welcome back to the Damn Parenting podcast. I am your host, Eva. Now, there was a film in the 90s, and yes, I know exactly what I'm doing when I say that, and it was called The Field of Dreams. Kevin Costner, a cornfield, and a voice that says, if you build it, they will come. Now, I'm not comparing a bilingual Montessori school in Eindhoven to a baseball diamond in the middle of Iowa, but when I heard about Seeker, a brand new school that is literally opening its doors for the very first time in the next month, that line was the first thing that came into my head, because somebody made a decision not to wait for the right school to appear, not to compromise, but to build it. Seeker is a private bilingual Dutch-English Montessori primary school based in Eindhoven, taking its first ever cohort of 4 to 6-year-olds this September. And the children starting this September, well, they're going to be the founding class, the ones that the whole school will be built around. I'm joined today by Tim, a co-founder, and I wanted to know why they decided to do this and how they actually made it happen inside the Dutch system and what it means to be a founder family at a school that just doesn't have any history yet because it's about to become history. Tim, welcome to Damn Parenting.
Thank you so much.
Well, before we get into what Seeker is, can you tell me what was missing? Like, what were you not finding when you looked around Eindhoven for your own child or for the families around you?
Well, it started about 4 years ago when we became parents. My wife Camilla had a difficult pregnancy, so she basically had to stop working the entire pregnancy and be at home, which left her a lot of time to read books about child psychology and neuroscience and parenting and education. And from that, we developed a very clear view of what we wanted to do as parents and education for our children, which was helpful because online there was so much contradictory information. When we got our first baby, the verloskundige here in the Netherlands and the GGD, the VGD, advised us immediately to start looking at daycares and at schools because it's apparently very busy. And so we did. And what we saw mostly was very different than what we were reading in the books and what we were applying at home. And we felt that was rather odd. So then we started on a quest to look around at other schools in the Netherlands and internationally. And the more we looked into it, the more we felt discomfort with the traditional school system and fell in love with the Montessori school system, especially ones of beautiful examples we saw internationally. So after visiting such schools internationally, we decided we must do this here in the Netherlands, at least for our own children and for more.
Can I ask, was there a specific moment that you guys were like, okay, we're just going to do this?
Yes, it was. With our baby, we did a few travels, and one was to Azores. And there we went to a restaurant, a nice farm-to-table restaurant. And I was listening to some podcast with school founders, and I just thought, okay, maybe I had a feeling that this is what we should do. And then I told my wife Camilla, and I thought she would call me crazy, but she didn't. And we got actually very enthusiastic during the course of the deal.
What are your backgrounds for this?
Yes, so we have no education background whatsoever. My wife and I are both entrepreneurs. Camilla was a food and beverage photographer, and I had a company in the music industry for 10 years.
All right, so very different from what you're building now.
Yeah, very different. Becoming parents changed everything for us.
So you're based in Eindhoven. Now, obviously, ASML, design technology, there's more international families there than ever before. Is that part of what you saw, like a city that had grown, but the school options hadn't kept up?
That was a nice add-on for us. It really came from, okay, I sold my previous company. I would like to do another project next. So next I thought maybe we should just solve a problem we have. And that was finding a great school for our children. Then that became the trajectory to explore whether that will be a feasible project. And then, yeah, it turned out we were quite lucky to be in Eindhoven and be an international family ourselves. Camilla is Lithuanian. Yeah, it made so much sense for us to start a bilingual school. And then in Eindhoven, the Brainport region that's growing rapidly internationally, it was a good fit.
Who else is part of this? Like, I know it's yourself and your wife, but is there a team or a community? How did the founding group kind of come together?
Well, it started just me and my wife. Now we have two great teachers already, Claudine and Saskia. as we're doing bilingual in the first class in each class. But now with this first class, we have an English speaking guide and a Dutch speaking guide. Within Montessori, the curriculum is basically catered for each individual child that is there. There's no big classical lessons, but individual ones or small groups. So one guide does everything in English and one guide does everything in Dutch. And that way the children naturally learn both languages at once. So that's the team right now. And then actually we found too early another great lady. She lives here and she is very steeped in the Montessori and just a very good guide. Unfortunately, her Ukrainian diploma is not recognized here in the Netherlands to be allowed to teach. So she needs to start PABO teaching school. But she's been involved a bit with us already on open days and other events.
So I want to ask a big question. How does a
Yeah.
new school actually get started here in the Netherlands? Like, what did you have to understand about the education system to make any of this happen?
Quite a bit. And we took a bit of an unorthodox route. So I think 99.9% of the schools in the Netherlands are public schools, which means they're funded by the government. So in that case, I believe you need to first gather a group of parents to show demand and then go to the government and the municipality to show that you want to start a school. And then with some luck, you get assigned the building and you can start the school with the group of parents you have started with. Obviously, with that, you get money and a lot of rules. And with those rules, it would not be possible with what we've seen internationally. I want to start here. Hence is why we started a private school route. The benefit of this is that we have a much smaller package of rules. We don't need to show the government how we spend our money and how the children are progressing with tests and schedules and all sorts. So we have much more freedom to really set out the education that we have envisioned. The downside is that we don't get any help whatsoever. So it took us 2 years to find a school location. And as 99.9% of the schools in the Netherlands are public schools, there's also very little information on how to start a private school. So it has been quite a trajectory. We've been looking for advisors to help us, but unfortunately they don't seem to exist. So yeah, it was just a lot of cold calls, networking. The biggest issue was finding the school location. In Eindhoven, there was only one place with the right bestemmingsvergunning, a license for an area of the town and building that can be used for specific purposes, in our case, education. There was one place in Eindhoven, which first came for sale. Beautiful place with the price not mentioned. We still reached out to see if maybe we could rent it, but obviously that was not what they were looking for. And since then, I've been looking at houses and other places and old churches, all with no luck, unfortunately, until somehow via networking, via different people, I came in contact with the new owners of that one building with the right license, and they were looking for people to rent it to under these licensing circumstances. So that was very lucky. This is a big building already. With this immediately the end dream location. Well, initially we thought, okay, we would start. What do we need? We need a teacher. We need a classroom. We need outside space, and that's it. We can start small. Turned out we couldn't start small, and now we have the full dream location already in Eindhoven. So a positive thing is we can show continuity to all the families. We're staying in that place. We can grow in that place, and it's already just beautiful.
It looks stunning, I have to say. Was there any issues with the Dutch inspections or the Dutch educational system that way, like, and how they were involved?
I had some trouble reaching out to the right people within the government, starting in private school. And the way it works is quite funny. You just start a school and then you tell the government that you started the school. And then in the first month, they come by with their checklist. And then you're either approved or disapproved. So from the government, that makes a lot of sense because you cannot qualify a school if the school isn't there yet. From our point of view, we've been working on this for 3 years. It feels quite funny that they only come to take a look and talk with us once we're already open.
Wow. You will be opening up very soon, and you're starting with the youngest children, ages 4 to 6. Why was it with that decision, and what happens in the years ahead?
Yes. Well, the why is because it comes back to why we started the school was for our own children. Our eldest is turning 4 in 2 weeks, and then he'll be allowed to go to our school in September. So Indeed, this year we start with age group 4 to 6. And next year we intend to open 6 to 9 and then grow later into 9 to 12. And then we have the full primary school, basisschool age range.
In traditional Montessori, the older children model the culture for the younger ones. But since you're creating the culture from zero, everyone's basically the same age. How are you going to create that when there's no blueprint, I guess?
Yes. So within Montessori, there is something called grace and courtesy. These are little lessons about how to behave and interact with each other and take care of your environment. Just community rules. So in the beginning, in this first school year, there will be probably a bit more attention to that from the guides. Something silly as how do you grab a scissors and hand it to someone else, as to where do you put your shoes and your jacket, and when you're done with some work, how do you put it back? Or when you made some lunch for yourself, do you tidy up your plate? You don't interrupt other people when they're working. So that is how we carefully build this calm culture based on concentration and respect.
What do you think it means to be a founding family?
Well, first of all, it shows a lot of trust in our plan, which I'm very grateful for. Because the school is so new, it really means that with these people that have joined us and we're doing this with the guides, yeah, this is the foundation of the school culture. We've looked at quite some schools, and even if schools are in the same country with the same educational model, same curriculum, they can be drastically different if the school culture is different. So that's something we're trying to build very carefully. And that's why we start with one class and not try to fill the entire school already.
So you're talking about they're the right people. Who do you think Seeker
Yes.
really is for? Like if a family is listening and wondering whether this is for them, what do you want to say to them?
Montessori, I think, is for everyone. It sounds like it's this alternative thing, and it often gets put in the same box like Waldorf, but it's actually quite distinct and quite academically focused. Maria Montessori was a doctor and psychologist. She observed children on how they learn naturally, and Montessori is actually gaining more popularity lately because in the fields of neuroscience and child psychology, these findings that are very aligned with what Montessori observed nearly 100 years ago now. I would say the biggest differences between the traditional school, the idea is that children are blank slates, and it's the adult's job to share all the information, and then to see if that worked. We're going to do tests, and then the kids pass or fail or get grades on those tests, so then we know if that worked or didn't work, and then we go on to the next thing. If you look at children before they go to school, they learn nearly automatically. They go from rolling over to crawling to running to jumping to climbing. They learn multiple languages nearly automatically. They're interested in everything. Everything is new. They're curious. So the Montessori philosophy is really based on fueling that intrinsic motivation, and instead of trying to put a lot of control over it. I'm convinced, and as is everyone in Montessori, that it is for everyone. Downside of being a private school for us is that we're expensive. Public schools are near free, and we have to fund everything ourselves, which means that the parents pay school tuition. So we are an expensive school, especially if you compare to the alternatives in the Netherlands. We are not expensive compared to other private schools or internationally.
How many children are you accepting?
We are accepting a maximum of 24 children. 2 months ago, we were finally able to announce that we have this location and that we're opening in September. So since then, we've had our first open day, and we're speaking with new families every week.
And where can listeners find you?
Every listener can find us on our website. That is seeker.education. Also, my wife is running the socials, so we are on Instagram and LinkedIn, I believe. So pick your choice. On the website, we have the most information. And people are, of course, welcome to reach out, to schedule a call, or come and visit the school.
All right. Well, Tim, thank you so much for joining us here. And Seeker, what a great name. And that's because that's what these children are going to be doing. They're going to be seekers. They're curious, independent, bilingual little humans who happen to be the very first. You can find Seeker at seeker.education. All of this will be in the show notes. If you are in Eindhoven or moving there or just curious, go and check it out. And if this episode is your first one here at Damp Parenting, welcome. We have been doing this for a while with over 200 episodes for international families living here in the Netherlands, covering everything from the Dutch school system to maternal mental health to how to actually buy a house here. Just hit follow wherever you're listening so you never miss another one. And if you know a family who have just landed in and around the Eindhoven area and is trying to figure out where to start, send them this episode. That's how the community grows.